Hello, Mark Galvan here from Proforce. This is just a quick presentation to illustrate a point we make regularly with clients about recruiting. Simply that the recruiting process is so time intensive and requires so much corporate capital that it should be delivering a lot more value than just a single new hire. In many business environments where there's a recruiting function, it's similar to all the other departments in that it's siloed away from everything else, just like sales and marketing, accounting, operations, customer service, and so on. Typically, each department has a goal of optimizing their local activities and functions independently. So recruiting or talent acquisition has a singular goal of recruiting people. It seems good, but back when I was at Accenture, there was an advanced Lean Six Sigma concept I taught operational leaders called local Optima from Eliyahu Goldratt, the author of The Goal and The Theory of Constraints. Local Optima is optimizing a local function, often at the expense of the overall value stream. An example from recruiting is the common metric speed to fill. And of course, there's other popular ones. Years ago, when I became an enterprise-level executive leader and accounting and finance, operations, and sales all rolled up to me, I obviously needed to be concerned with the productivity and performance of all the separate business units. So because I'm no longer in a silo, I have a new point of reference across the broader enterprise. I'm looking at the recruiting function from a whole new perspective. So say there's 99 applicants for a position and one gets hired. Is that good? Do we consider the 99 candidates acceptable waste just because we hit our internal speed to fill metric or some other metric? Recruiting and HR is happy to close the requisition, looking good and ready to move on to the next one. But I'm looking also at accounting and marketing and branding and sales and all of their efforts. And then I'm looking back at recruiting and the function and looking at the 99 candidates who got rejected, who could be customers, influencers, teaming partners. And at that point, I'm asking myself, what else is in there? I knew from working with Fortune 100s, startup companies, nonprofits, even government entities, that this paradigm is normal. But it was at that time I began borrowing ideas and methodologies from many separate industries to synthesize an enhanced talent acquisition process. Here's a couple examples of what I mean. A key principle from the multi-level marketing industry where we really see masters of recruiting is, quote, shoot for the recruit, miss with the sale, unquote. In other words, lead every conversation attempting to recruit someone to the business opportunity, but present the products in such a way that even if you can't recruit them, at least they become a customer. Cisco led with this concept years ago in the tech commercial space with the idea, quote, if they're not going to work for us, we want them to buy from us, quote unquote. Seems easy enough. But where have you seen a recruiting department or HR department that's expected to generate sales leads? Most recruiters know very well that HR skills and sales skills are two different types of DNA that rarely ever exist in the same person. Now, there's not enough time or space here now to go into how we can achieve this, but it's absolutely possible. Step one is really just becoming dissatisfied with the status quo and believing that more is possible. 99 candidates that are not hired are not waste. Step two is just recognizing that there are ways to accomplish more from the effort invested in the recruiting function. Clearly, there's other organizations already doing it. This next chart illustrates by far the most common paradigm. Candidates that are not hired are hopefully going to become evangelists for the product or the brand. However, this model is very rarely ever intentional. It's probably more often like the post and pray recruiting strategy. You know, post the position and pray someone good applies. In this case, it's more like process all the candidates and pray that everyone who gets rejected still loves the consumer brand and says good things online. It clearly blurs the lines of distinction between the consumer brand, the products, and the employer brand, the leadership and the culture created by the leadership. But the problem with this scenario from an enterprise perspective is that there's no real monetization of the brand equity. It's good, but in the best case scenario, it still doesn't generate anything beyond marketplace goodwill. Way too much is left on the table with this model. Another common recruiting tactic is asking for employee referrals, which is frequently very effective. However, I've never heard of any company asking candidates for referrals. Now, it's a fundamental operational excellence or lean principle to extract as much value out of every activity as possible. So I began working with my team to apply the concept to the recruiting function to get as much enterprise value out of the execution of the process, because I was in a position where the success of all the other departments mattered to me. So could we really get candidate referrals from existing candidates? Could we get candidate referrals for other open positions from the existing candidates? We found the answer was unequivocally yes. Candidates will absolutely refer other great people who they believe are qualified, potentially available, and might be interested in specific positions if asked. We did find, however, that there's an ideal moment in the end-to-end recruiting process when candidates are most willing to share referrals. And candidates will offer referrals for both the position to which they're applying and for completely different unrelated positions. In short, it works. And candidate referrals are sometimes even better than employee referrals. I've been showing this to organizations for years, that when we synthesize the best practices in sales, marketing communications, organizational design, and talent acquisition, we can create something that produces valuable results in orders of magnitude greater than the status quo. With a little bit more effort, or maybe with no extra labor at all, can we get sales leads, brand evangelists, and product evangelists out of the process? Yes, absolutely. With some changes in how we interact with candidates, can we get other relationships besides W-2 employees as a byproduct of the recruiting function? Like maybe potential project team members, affiliate partners, or social influencers? Yes, absolutely. The concept of getting more value from the recruiting process is not extraordinary enough to be disruptive. Innovative in many environments, okay, but every organization should demand more than just an offer letter after the enormous amount of time and money that's invested in the recruiting process. This is applicable to small businesses especially, but also to large enterprises, churches, anyone. The goal of this presentation is to challenge executive level and enterprise leaders, including CEOs and COOs and CFOs, to work with their internal teams to create more enterprise level value. It's not going to happen within the silos. There's not going to be a bottoms up movement to create greater organizational value. Don't expect there to be an appetite or interest on the part of HR or recruiting to take on the additional work needed to build out what's necessary to achieve these kinds of extraordinary results. No, there's no incentive for taking on extra work. It has to start at the C-level. This page illustrates that in every paradigm, there's so much more that can be harvested from the work effort. Of course, not every idea is applicable or even has equal value, but the concept is spot on, and companies are already doing it. In some traditional or corporate environments, these are out-of-the-box ideas, so it requires an executive-level champion, some appropriate change management, and the vision to be able to implement this successfully and sustainably in these types of environments. But if you're looking for a way to cut costs, increase revenue, gain competitive advantage, or just accomplish a lot more with your existing recruiting resources, we'd love to show you how to make it happen. Send me an email right now. Let's start the conversation. It's all good. Thanks for tuning in and listening. I'm Mark Galvan from Proforce.